Hello and welcome to the Swim Brief. I wanted to start just mid smoothie drinking for my lone guest this weekend. Joel said this weekend. Well, I guess it's Friday. Is it the weekend? I don't know. Not yet for most of us. Joel Rawlings. Joel, how are you?
Doing great. Yeah, dropped 160 pounds of dead weight by not having Wyken and the smoothie. So here we go.
I think
No,
Wyken's a little bit more than 160.
I don't know. I was giving the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Like last time I made fun of him, there's no way he'll listen to this. So we can just ridicule him as much as we want, I think.
Nah, he always texts. He always listens. If there's like some sort of swimming stuff out there, he is already texting us with it. It's just amazing. Right. And especially if it's a psychosocial aspect or if it's making fun of him. Either one.
Yeah,
he knows.
Or if he's detected somebody on the internet who's doing hundreds at 200 pace, then he has like a little alert that goes off and the alarm bells go and then he's ready to get fired up about it.
Quick, someone on the internet might be wrong. I've got to there you go. That'll fix it.
Someone might be creating unrealistic expectations with their swimming workout. We must stop them.
Exactly.
So speaking of unrealistic expectations, I want to get right into our first topic of the day. Later, we're going to talk about ASU a bit. But I want to talk about this Mission Viejo, and I'm going to do the big, for those of you who aren't watching the YouTube version of this, I have both fingers, both hands up to do the giant scare quotes of pro team, because I read this and to me, it's not a pro team, but maybe you'll convince me otherwise. We both saw this flyer, this marketing that Mission Viejo is sending out about their quote unquote pro team. I guess I'll stop saying quote unquote for the rest because it's annoying.
Made your point, yeah.
About their pro team. What was your impression reading it?
I think it's like reminds you of like, remember when Tampa Bay built like that huge professional baseball stadium? Like, hey, Seattle, you don't want a team, then they started putting out flyers like, come on down, looking for a pro team. It kind of reminds me of the same kind of a thing, like, look at everything we got here, and then listing everything that we have here. And this, so like, basically it's like, we've got the shell, we just need to fill the shell with pros. And that's my initial take, is that it's like, they've got the stadium, they just don't have the baseball team yet.
Right. Well, so, I mean, the thing that makes me scare quoted is my impression of a pro team in this context is you are being paid to swim.
Right.
But this team costs $7,200 a year to be on.
Yeah. And you're like, are you going to offset our costs? And so then, I wonder if that becomes the new tier of kind of like the soccer moms looking for the place to send their kids off. It's like, like where it used to be like you got Chico bail bonds supporting your team, and that wasn't good enough. You got a free T-shirt. Then all of a sudden everyone's got uniforms. Then all of a sudden everyone's got elite travel team. And now you've got elite travel pro team that you're paying $7,200 for. I think in California though, they're a little more okay going into debt, I think, than the rest of the country happens to be. They're used to paying for school. They're used to paying for a lot of stuff. Maybe this is cool with them, but you're right. It's like pro teams. Like, I thought being a pro meant I was getting paid.
Right. Well, since it may sound like I'm, being critical, I actually love this concept. I just don't think it's a pro team. I think what it is a high-end club swimming team, and they're actually seem to be charging enough money for it. And one of the things that one of my hobby horses is, I think that a lot of high-end club swimming programs don't charge enough to train on their top group. They sort of have their, they have that pyramid where they're earning a lot per swimmer on the littlest kids on the team, and then the margins get real thin when you get to the top. Now, I have no idea what the margins are like running a high-end club team in Southern California. Maybe this is still actually just a little bit above the margins.
Maybe there's a margin. Yeah, right. No, you're right.
Maybe they're still running it tight on the margins. But I love the idea of like, hey, here it is. You're going to get a lot. And when I look through this, if I just sort of read the flyer a little bit, didn't Eric just send that to us? Now why can't I see it? I have to scroll up a bit to find what I'm looking for. You just fill some.
You can keep scrolling. Yeah, I was going to bring up the same thing. That whole the pyramid that USA Swimming puts out, which is basically the pyramid scheme of USA Swimming, where you've got, at the base, everyone's chipping in X amount of dollars, so that it kind of pays for the lanes at the one. So you're like 20 little kids in one lane, so that they can pay for 2 kids in the other lane.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I that's the not sound like we're haters, because again, it's great that people paying their own way. And like you said, I don't know what the actual going rate would be in California to be swimming. But if I were, chipping in on the team with my little kid coming in, we're paying X amount of dues, we're required to buy all these suits, caps, goggles, warm-ups, be at these meets, knowing that a good chunk of this is supporting a pro team, I'd be like, you know what, maybe, especially at the entry level, this isn't for us.
Right.
So you're right. It's the thing that when they're having to pay their own way a little bit, because that's the part is like, if it's a pro team, what's the revenue stream coming in? Who's paying for the coaches? I think that's what Mecklenburg had a problem with Marsh, however many years back now.
Right.
Where all these, we're paying you X amount of dollars and you're going to be over there. Again, people are going to go back and forth on what's right, what's wrong. But just reading the swim swam troll boards, that seemed to be the gist of it, was that we're paying X amount of dollars and we don't see that coach. He's with the elite team.
Yeah. So we're just going to go through a few of these points here, because I wanted to highlight, some of what they're actually offering, and it's pretty impressive. They talk about uninterrupted water times at prime time. I don't really know what prime time is. I'm guessing, again, I feel like this is targeted at high school age kids and their families. That's actually who this who's going to make up the majority of this group in comparison to actual sort of post-college professional swimmers. But I could be wrong. We'll see, who ends up sort of materializing on this team. So I'm thinking prime time is that after school, 3:30 to 5:30 or whatever. You're getting your long course, short course training. Practice is individualized on some level, strength training in the same place that you swim, video review. You have access to nutritionists, cryotherapy, massage, chiropractors. And then the interesting thing too, that we've been harping on this cost a little bit, but another thing that I actually really like about this is that you can defray the cost of doing it through volunteering. It's not very real specific about what it is volunteering, but my assumption is that the volunteering is going to be some form of involvement with younger kids on this team. So, you might
lessons or swim lessons, things. Yeah.
Or help out with the,
swim clinic.
Yeah. Like that kind of stuff. So I think, again, that part of it could be really good in terms of getting the best swimmers, sort of most dedicated swimmers on your team to reinvest in the rest of the team, if they're not going to just invest the raw cash that needs to go through the rest of it. So, clearly there's been some thought put into this. I think I'm interested. I'm glad that they're putting out some more details, because what we've talked about on this podcast is, these rise of these pro teams, and we don't really know case to case how they're running it. Now, there's plenty of details left to fill in here, but there's a lot more detail than, for instance, I've been emailing back and forth with Texas Ford Aquatics, who had Coley Stickles down there. And they've promised me at some point there's going to be a much more detailed rollout of what they're doing. But I would love to get them on a podcast sort of talking through some of these questions that we have, and we're working on that.
Right. Especially like a lot of the pro teams have always been at universities, because there's already the infrastructure in place.
Right.
You're going to obviously have cheap housing off campus because it's a college town. You've got the facility, you got, abilities to get them a lot of the surplus things. And it's interesting. I wonder also with, trying to think of how to phrase it, but like a lot of these club teams, especially like, you start going, and one of the reasons to stick with it is we'll get you a scholarship. It's like, well, now you do like that gap year thing, especially as a guy with so many kids being recruited as sophomores, the late bloomer guy or whoever is going to miss out on the scholarship. And so now in a sense, it becomes like that, the G League or the holding pen for when the scholarship opens up, because now a junior or senior guy can go, listen, like you can go recruit that senior, say, listen, we'll have a scholarship open 2024. And so now you've got a pro team to go to. You're still paying $7,200, but if it really helps you get better and all of a sudden means, that scholarship that was promised at this level maybe gets up to the next level, that could be something. So maybe this would be something where a catch-all for those gap swimmers or the late bloomers that just aren't going to get the scholarships, that aren't getting the opportunities to be on teams that they want to be on. And again, that's too often is used as the carrot, to keep kids into the sport. It's kind of like the NFL. You start up the Iron Man argument of like, well, you just got to want it more. There's millions of dollars waiting for you, rather than looking at the pile of the dead they built their NFL on. Yeah.
Right. Speaking of gap years, I think that's a perfect opportunity to transit to our next topic, which is Arizona State University, who's having an incredibly successful thus far. We're recording on a Friday morning, so only had like a day and a half of Pac-12 men's championship, but ASU looked phenomenal in the meet. They swam a Pac-12 record in the 800 freestyle relay, and they're in second place right now. And so they're doing incredibly well. And a couple things I want to revisit in this context. And the first one is, Bob Bowman's decision to essentially redshirt, not essentially, he did redshirt his entire team for a year. And certainly seems to have had some sort of payoff. But it sort of segues into the next topic, which is, women's Pac-12s were last week, and objectively, ASU women were not doing as well as ASU men are doing. And I thought it'd be a perfect springboard into just, you and I spreading wild generalizations about what the difference between coaching men and women and what's going on when you have a combined program where sort of one side of the combined program is doing so much better than the other. But first, I want to ask you what you think now with the benefit of hindsight about Bowman's decision to redshirt the entire year last year and bring his team back this year.
Yeah, I think we have hindsight as in like, well, this worked, because you're saying fast. Well, it worked for who though? That's the thing. It's worked for the kids that are on the Pac-12 squad. It's working for Bob Bowman. But what we don't know is, again, like you have a squad of guys already set that would be, this is the group that we're going to probably take to Pac-12s this year. And then then we redshirt. Now everyone gets that year of eligibility back. Great. And we bring in more people. Some people didn't make that team then. So either the guys all got better and it's just a freshman on the roster, or that freshman that you're seeing on the roster, they bumped somebody off that roster.
Yeah.
And so for the people that are there, of course it's working, because now they're up in second, they're doing well. And so the people that got bumped off, you can go, hey, it's big boy, big girl swimming. What are you going to do? Get faster, and so we can put it on them, again, which is the easy way out, I think. I'm just kind of hiding behind you had your opportunities to swim faster. So, you got to take the opportunities when they come. Great life lesson, kid, and now go on with your day. Obviously it's in a sense working because it's successful. What would be interesting though is it working if they're not setting records? Would it be working if they're in fourth or fifth or sixth place like they'd been in the past? And so that's the thing is I guess the philosophical question would be like, does it have to be, yes, it's working, if it's successful as in second place, or yes, it's working if they came in fifth or sixth place. So it'd be like, yes, it's working because the success is there. If they're in fifth or sixth, you'd be like, no, that was worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, it was a risky move. Like, I remember thinking it was a risky move at the time, just because I think if you're a college swimmer, the college season and the college competitions are so much more fun than any other competitive opportunities you can have, that, you know,
Right.
you risk sort of by taking off a whole year, some of your swimmers just getting pretty sort of demotivated by not having that college competition there for them, you know. So the fact that I don't know enough to look in and see. I do think you're probably right. They just were able to create a deeper roster than otherwise, because they have all these people with extra eligibility, plus, you know, some newcomers. So they probably have sort of an extra year's worth of talent there on the team. And I don't know, you know, who got bumped about that, but it seems clear too that they didn't lose some of their best athletes.
Right.
You know,
well, I
in
suppose
that
every
process.
team had a chance really to kind of stockpile, because everyone was given extra years of eligibility.
Yeah.
There's people that are going to be competing at NCAAs that are, you know,
lots
should
of
be
fifth
in a
years.
sense. Yeah, right. And so, I mean, that's the thing, is that whole generation is kind of bumped. So, I mean, I guess that would be the deeper question. Then, was it still successful now that they're second? They could still be doing the same thing anyway, even if they didn't sit out. So I guess the question is, did an extra year of just kind of focusing on training and not worrying about COVID, not worrying about anything else, did that make this year? And that's why I'm going to say, I don't think it was really worthwhile, because in the end, they were given it anyway. They were given that fifth year no matter what, so they could have competed. So that's why, in a sense, it didn't work out. But again, that's where the hindsight comes in, where if in hindsight, all of a sudden the year got shut down, then he would have been genius level. Like, this was the move. And so right now, because, you know, everyone got that extra year to kind of stockpile, but obviously for them, something worked, you know, because everyone in a sense had a chance to stockpile, and, you know, here they are moving up as quickly as they are.
Yeah. I think, I mean, you're too embarrassed to share this on the podcast, but, you know, offline, you were just saying it's all Herbie Beam. That, you know, you think it's Herbie that's made the entire difference for ASU. And I don't know why you're being shy about it now. You know, you're talking about all these other factors, but it was Herbie, right, Joel?
He coaches the 200 freestyle for the 800 free relay to win like that. Do his kids go up to the?
I don't know. I don't know.
The
To be honest,
thing was 50 and 100. I didn't know he went up to the 200 freestylers.
Maybe one of those guys is in the sprint group.
Maybe one.
Know. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, but what about this difference between the men's and women's team? I mean, I know in my own coaching career, during the time that I was my first college coaching job at Penn, our women's team was much better than our men's team. That was a situation that persisted for both years I was there. And I went down to Georgia Tech. The men's team was significantly better than the women's team. And it actually, I don't know, this is purely anecdotal, but it seems to me more combined programs are having this kind of imbalance. I don't know whether there's more split programs, and the split programs are sort of making things harder for the combined programs to be good. But what's been your experience with this sort of imbalance, and what kind of factors do you think go into something like this happening?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, though. I've seen that too, and I've talked to a lot of coaches that have all felt this too. Where on a combined program, one is going to probably be better. It's just going to keep, and it's going to stay that way. Right. The split, and obviously the trend has always been to combine programs, and you can talk about the gender discrepancy in that. If they're going to have one head coach, it's almost always they're going to select a male, just how the ADs work. And then the female will get an assistant or an associate position. And so if it's a separate program, a lot of times, you know, there could be a female head coach, but they're only coaching females, you know, and then when they merge, usually it's the female coach. So, oh, well, they've stepped aside or something like that. So that's a whole separate podcast. But when they've combined programs, definitely seems like one. And so I always kind of wonder, as far as you look at schools, like what makes up a school for people to really want to go to it? Obviously it's going to be academic reputation, it's going to be facilities, and it's going to be location and tuition. And then also it comes into it, obviously, the majors offered. And so if you have something like nursing, which is traditionally a women's major, you're going to get a lot more women on campus. However,
Joel says all women are nurses.
Yeah. And all engineers, it's like you're going to have more dudes.
Well, I will say that in Georgia Tech context, I mean, we just, for whatever reason, women did not want to go to Georgia Tech. We had like 65% men in the undergraduate student body and 35% women.
Right. And that's the thing is you have to look at part of that is some schools just traditionally attract more women. Like, so you look at the general population, it could be 52% to 48%. Well, another campus, it could be like an engineering school, like a Rose Hulman kind of a thing. Obviously, right. It could be male, obviously, yeah. But I'm saying how there's a lot of things like that. So that could be part of it. So I don't know if ASU trends towards more guys, more women, but I think in this case, just from my personal thought, is that part of it is I think Bowman's style of coaching, it's a little more. I guess in this day and age, would be abrasive, and so I think some personalities deal with that a little bit better. I'm not saying all men deal with that better or all women do not deal with that. I'm just there's just some people that it works better for, some people it doesn't, and right now, apparently, it looks like it works better with the guys. It's just my guess, because again, not knowing if ASU trends towards more men on campus or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you talk about Bowman. I'm going to talk about Herbie again, because we hear more, I think, about what Herbie's doing, because he's been on a podcast and he's pretty active on social media. When I look at the sort of stuff that Herbie has been putting out there, because that's all I have to base my opinion on what's going on with his coaching at ASU. My take on it is that it will be much more successful with college age Ben, what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
I like, and I know that because I've tried to do a similar thing, and I found the college age men that I was coaching loved it. And a lot of the women that I was coaching at that time really struggled confidence-wise, really struggled to build confidence off of, a main set of 850s on 4 minutes or whatever. They just, and I think, to sort of get into generalizations, there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, you could delve into the psychological aspect, but physiologically, I think, your average guy is just going to get more benefit from a super high level of intensity in training versus your average woman.
You look at like what Boomer used to always say too, just about like with hang angles and things where guys just are going to tend to, again, just be a little more, like 45 degree to like straight up and down, especially the sprinters, bigger yardage on that kind of really, it takes a lot more energy for them to kind of get up on the surface and go and maintain that for X amount of yards. People with more adipose tissue, women with more, adipose tissue, in the hip leg area like that, they ride a little bit higher in the water. And again, it's a different energy expenditure to get going with that. And so I think this part of it, again, it's a mass generalization, just like, a certain coaching style only works with men or certain only works with women. It's a mass generalization, but that's kind of what we specialize in, mass generalizations like that. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You look at the workouts, you're like, 22-year-old dude is going to do really well with that. You can go throw some heavy stuff around, get in there, max out at 50. Again, the way the event setups are, it boggles my mind when a club coach will look at this and be like, we should emulate some of this stuff. It's like club meet, you got 6-100 you're doing in that one day, and then you come back for finals. College meet, got a 50, you rest, maybe you got a relay of 50. So day one is 150 yards, 200 yards of all out swimming. Yeah, it's a lot different than the demands. And so, so I think you're absolutely right, though.
So what would you do? Like, what if you were running a combined program? What would you do to try and make the best out of, like, because I don't talk to anybody that thinks a combined program is really the best for each gendered team on a individual level. So, but often these decisions are not made by swim coaches, or in fact, almost entirely not made by swim coaches. Athletic directors go like, well, oh, wow, we could save 80 grand a year if we combined and just made this guy the head coach of both teams. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I would love that. So what would you do if you were a head coach of a combined program to make the best out of a combined situation?
Well, when I was coaching Division III, obviously it was a combined program because we don't have that kind of money.
Are there any split programs in Division III?
There might be.
Maybe
I'm not even really sure.
But
somewhere, yeah. So I liked it because it kind of calmed the guys down a little bit. Sometimes you get a little too much of those pack animal kind of things, like, and it kind of calmed them down a little bit, you know. And on the women's side, it was nice also because sometimes you can just break away, just go over there, swim with the dudes, just have people to chase. Yeah. And there's like not a lot of talking, just go. And so it can be good for both. I think the thing is, really, if you got a group that's doing well, then you got to just keep on fostering that. And if one team suffers because of that, you're like, you'd like them to do better. But I mean, really, in the end, it's like you look at a team that wins a championship, you remember that. You don't go, oh, geez, he never won one with the women's team. What an idiot. That guy's a terrible coach. He can only win 12 straight championships on the men's side. What a moron. Right. And so you ride with what you have. And I just remember
nobody's following around Jack Bowerly going, but how many men's championships has he won?
Yeah. It doesn't seem to affect his Ask a Clinic speeches. But yeah, I think the thing is too, is like the amount of energy it takes in recruiting is just, it's nonstop, obviously. Yeah. And if you're already like you said, like Georgia Tech, for whatever reason, women just weren't really coming to that school for whatever reason is, again, I don't really know, maybe just because Georgia is just, the campus looks different. There's something about Georgia that you're going to have more women going there. I've had people like turn down the school because they don't like the school colors, so I mean, you have no idea what it is.
What were the school colors though, Joel?
It was bad. It was purple and white. Oh. so I get it. It wasn't
I love like purple. I would love to go to a purple
excuse,
school.
But nonetheless, it was an excuse. But you're like, the amount of energy to put in to recruit, because our school is primarily a business school, no nursing, et cetera, like that, to put in to recruit women was exponentially harder.
Right.
It was just a lot more time. But part of my job was I had to balance out the numbers for gender equity, for football, for basketball, for baseball. And so I had to put that time and effort in to do that. And it just took a lot more. And so, yeah, if I could be like, hey, what the hell? We're just going to, bring in who we can bring in and focus on one side, you could do that. And I'm sure no one consciously focuses on that. But again, swimmers feed off of the subconscious stuff. You have no idea what it is that's kind of triggering a group. And maybe just the guys becoming better and better and better. Right. It does affect, or else they become the dominant personalities. And you can usually see that, like as a coach, you walk in on a deck and you see who's talking the loudest, who the biggest group is. And you're like, all right, this is the group that runs, in a sense, the team in the locker room. This is the one that runs the team in the bus. Yeah. And so you can usually tell right away. And I think recruits can tell right away. And like I said, that subconscious level, maybe they're like, you know what, it just didn't really feel right for me. And then they self-select out. That's just my wild hypothesis. How about you?
I mean, I'm just thinking, like, is this how you can tell that I'm sort of the dominant personality on this podcast?
It's because you're the only one who knows how to make these things work. I just turn on my iPad and press the link you send me.
I think Eric probably could figure it out, but
he doesn't
seem to want to. So we come full circle, and he just seems, like, he's above all of that.
I know. So yeah, so I think the interesting thing with ASU right now, there's a lot of cool questions that come out of that. One is obviously, was the choice right? With a lot of things, was it right if you shut down? Was it right if you didn't shut down? Was it right if they're in last place? Was it right in their first place? The second thing is what makes a dynasty, because I mean, it could become a dynasty. It's got a lot of things in place. You look at everything with schools, especially for this, is like, do you have a place people want to go? Do you have majors people want to do? And are you going to, is it a good coach? So obviously it's a good coach. It's a great facility, and it's a school, especially, guys are going to go to. They got like aerospace, again, male dominated one, get a lot of dudes in there.
Yeah.
Get a lot of people internationally. You got a lot of they've got a huge like online course thing too, so again, you can take a lot of classes remotely. So I think it's one of those things where, again, it has the opportunity to become very successful, just like Virginia seems like kind of a campus, and I've only seen it like once or twice. It's like a kind of women's dominated campus. They're going to be very, very successful on the women's side too. And so you look at, again, just from recruiting standpoint, I think especially in the South, it's definitely something where it's a lot more attractive for people to go from. You do all your training up in New York, you get all this big yardage training. It's like, it's time to head south. But you look at, like, first round quarterbacks, I think is a interesting thing to look at, as in, where did they grow up? A lot of them from the Northeast. Where did they go to school? Somewhere in the South and on the West Coast. And then where they get drafted. Same thing with swimming. I think a lot of it is, listen, you can get up at 5 a.m. and it's going to be 12 below zero outside. And you can walk over to the pool and swim. Or you can get up, it's dark outside, but 72 degrees and you're passing palm trees. Like, I think I might go with that.
Right. I'm going to finish it on a positive note, because I'm just thinking, even as you're talking, one more sort of kudo to Arizona State. I can remember, because it was happening simultaneous to when I started as an assistant coach at Georgia Tech, that ASU almost got cut. They were trying to cut that program, and they had to fight for their survival. Right. And I think so many times when something like that happens, even if somehow by some miracle, enough money is raised to quote unquote save the program, what you see usually is the team limps around for a few more years. The mortal blow has already been struck. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just sort of walking dead.
They're just going to let it bleed to death. Right. Yeah.
And here's a team that's come back, and obviously, especially their men, are really thriving right now. So on that part of it, I'm really happy to see it and see their success. And they certainly got my eyes glued to the results from Pac-12s here as we go.
Yeah. It's definitely exciting to watch. But then you also kind of wonder, for one to emerge like this, does someone have to die? Arizona, like, can there only, it's like Highlander, can there only be one?
Does that mean at the end of the meet, Bob Bowman has to chop Augie's head off with a sword, and then he absorbs all his knowledge from his immortal life? Is that,
I think on Swim Swam Troll Board, I think that's kind of what they're hoping will happen. Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll have to see. We'll be back next week to let you know whether or not
Eric's at 160 or above.
Yeah, whether Eric has cracked 160. Maybe throw a little bit of mass gainer on him or something, get him up there. Otherwise, we'll talk to you soon. And everybody, thanks for listening.
All right, thanks.